More rewards, more savings. With American Express Business Gold, earn up to $395 back in annual statement credits on eligible purchases at select shipping, food delivery, and retail subscription merchants. Enjoy the benefits of membership with the Amex Business Gold Card. Terms apply. Learn more at americanexpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold Card. Built for business by American Express.
So good, so good, so good.
Great brands, great prices. Everyone's got a reason to rack.
Because they have framed jeans.
Nike? Yes.
Just so many good brands.
Vince, Kurt Geiger London, Rag & Bone, and more are at Nordstrom Rack stores now. You never know what you'll find, but you know it's going to be so good. Great brands, great prices. That's why you rack.
Hello and welcome to the Plant School podcast. I'm Rachel Tenney, and here we learn all about plants, how they work, how to care for them, and it's all taught in a way that anyone from beginner to expert can listen to, understand, and enjoy. So I hope that you will join me in Plant School. Hello and welcome to the Plant School podcast. I'm so excited about today's episode. As you can see, we're going to be talking about becoming a clinical herbalist with my friend Emily Johnson. She is someone that I have quietly admired for a long time, and it was kind of a dream to be able to interview her because I've been so curious about her journey in becoming a clinical herbalist. So she's kind of at the beginning of her journey right now. So we're getting kind of a sneak peek into what it's like right now as she is just starting out, and I'm hoping that once she is finished, I can have her back on the podcast and we can hear about how it all went and her journey in opening up her own clinic. But she shared so much great information. She's become my go-to for all my herbal questions, and I really hope you guys enjoy listening and learning from her just as much as I did. Before I play the recording of the interview, I do want to do our giveaway winners. So every episode, I choose 2 giveaway winners, one who has left a review on Apple Podcasts, and then I take another winner from someone who has commented on the most recent Spotify episode. That way I'm kind of catering to my 2 biggest platforms that I know you guys listen on. So if you would like to win in the next episode, feel free to scroll down on Spotify, leave a little comment. Usually I will ask a question verbally that you can respond to. So for this episode, this is what I would like you to comment on and what I want to hear your thoughts on. I want to know if you use any herbal medicine in your daily life, and if so, what kind? If you don't feel like answering that question, that's totally fine. You can leave any sort of comment, and that will enter you into the giveaway as well. And for all of you listening on Apple Podcasts, if you leave a review, you will be entered into the giveaway. Just listen to each episode to see if you have won. So our winners for today, let's start with Spotify. Someone who commented on last week's episode, which was all about pothos. And before I forget, I wanted to tell you guys, I realize that a lot of people, and probably the more proper way is pothos, and I apologize that I say pothos. It's just a die-hard habit at this point. But thank you guys. No one called me out and got mad at me. But I will say on Instagram, as I've been posting about my pothos episode, Instagram's a crazy place. And I had quite a few people call me out on the way I was pronouncing it. And I was like, no one did that for me in the comments of my podcast episode. And I just want to say thank you for being so kind. I realize the pronunciation of plants can vary a little bit, and I just appreciate no one being mad at me. Or maybe you were mad and just didn't say anything. I appreciate you not saying anything. But anyways, today's winner, I asked you guys if you owned any pothos plants, and today's winner, their username is SDB. They said, thanks for all your information. I love to listen while doing my planty chores. I have a global green, snow queen, neon, Cebu blue, Baltic blue, and the striped one. Sounds like you have an amazing collection of pothos plants, or pothos plants. And thank you so much for listening, for commenting. SDB, if that was you, go ahead and email me. My email is tennyplants@gmail.com, TENNEY plants@gmail.com. I'll get your address and we'll send you your giveaway package. I haven't even mentioned what you win as a giveaway winner. You win a package from Market Botany. They will send you a bottle of their Leaf Shine as well as a bottle of their Prop Drops, which is a water propagation aid. I really love both of their products. If you want to check them out, you can always go to marketbotany.com and you can even use code PlantSchoolPodcast and that will give you an automatic discount on your order. All right, moving over to Apple Podcasts, today's winner, their username, what they typed in is beginner expert, and they said, "This podcast has been great for me as I begin my houseplant journey. I highly recommend." Thank you so much for that kind review. So glad that you have found this podcast as you begin on your journey. Go ahead and email me at tennyplants@gmail.com and I will get your address and send that giveaway package your way. And again, if you want to be our giveaway winner on our next week's episode, leave a comment on this episode. Let me know if you use any herbal remedies, or if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, just simply leave a review and you will be entered in. Okay, let's get into this interview. And before I start, I just want to say if any of you want to follow along with Emily as we get into this interview, which you probably will because she provides so much great information, her Instagram handle is Emmy Joy Herbal. That's EMMIE Joy Herbal. She'll mention it in this episode, but I just wanted to shout it out again because she is a great resource to follow. All right, without further ado, let's get into this interview with Emily Johnson. I am so excited for today. We have on Emily Craig Johnson. Our husbands are actually longtime friends, and that's how we know each other. But I've been following Emily's journey. She is enrolled in the College of Naturopathic Medicine, and so she is studying to become a clinical herbalist. And I am so excited to learn from you today. I want to start, though, with the question, have you always been interested in herbal remedies? Or, when did that start for you?
Yeah, it's actually been something that I grew up with, to be honest. My mom was really into natural remedies and herbal remedies. And I also grew up just kind of outside a lot. I really have a love of nature. And so when I went off to school, I kind of moved away from that. I was brought up with a lot of herbs, but I kind of turned away from that because I was busy with school and I kind of forgot about it until I got a little bit unwell. And then I kind of returned to that, if that makes sense. But yeah, ultimately growing up, I was really engrossed in that. My mom did a lot of naturopathic approaches to wellness with us, which was really cool.
Where did your mom learn it from, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, she had a friend that introduced her to it when she was raising kids. She has 7 kids, so quite a few. And she got pretty sick, and so she ended up turning to one of her friends who was into natural medicine, and she taught her all about it and in turn taught us all about it, which I'm really grateful for, actually.
Yeah. Okay, so being in this College of Naturopathic Medicine, how did you come about the decision to enroll? Was it just because you had grown up with it, you wanted to learn more, or how did that come about?
Yeah, for sure. So, I always had, I guess, an affinity for health and wellness. And I went to BYU and I really wanted to study to become maybe like a doctor or a physician's assistant. I was really drawn to that. But I kind of found that I wasn't loving maybe the more pharmaceutical approach to healing. I kind of felt like it just didn't resonate with me as much. I mean, I definitely think there's a place for that, but I was curious about alternate ways of healing, and I'd grown up with different ways of healing. And so I finished my degree. I was studying exercise and wellness, and I was kind of stuck. I didn't really know what to do or where I should study. And then eventually, when we moved to London, I started looking into a few more options, and I discovered the College of Naturopathic Medicine, and it was just a really awesome looking school. And yeah, I had a 6-month-old at the time, and they were really accommodating to that as well. So that was a great discovery for me because they're really great school over there. So
How long are you into the program, and how long of a program is it?
yeah, so I'm about just over a year in now, and it is a 5-year program, so it's pretty long, and there's a lot to learn, but it's a great program. So far, I've just loved it. It's awesome.
Yeah, and just for anyone wondering, because I don't know if I exactly understood What exactly is a clinical herbalist? Because that's like the end goal, right? Is to become that after you finish those 5 years.
Totally, yeah. So a clinical herbalist, another name for it is a medical herbalist, but it's basically a more specialized form of herbalism where you're specifically training to get the credentials to basically heal people using herbs that have clinical backing, and you're able to open your own clinic. Yeah, and there's actually a few different certifications you need to become a clinical herbalist. So for starters, you have to do a qualification course from an accredited provider. So that's usually anywhere from 3 to 5 years. And then after that, you have to complete 500 hours of clinical training. And then, yeah, then you can kind of get into the code of ethics and commit to ongoing professional practice. And there's a lot of different associations that you kind of become part of after that.
Is this something that's like only in the UK, or is this all over the world that there are like natural medicine clinics?
Totally. So I know for the College of Naturopathic Medicine, they do have locations in London and Manchester, but they do have students all over the world online because they do offer some really good online programs. But yeah, these kind of schools are all over the place and they are really amazing. I really do love the college I'm in because it's very comprehensive and it really plays on a lot of the things that I've already learned, with biology and anatomy and previously at BYU. So I definitely recommend it to anyone that's interested in that kind of a thing.
I'm gonna have to like Google if there's any out here in the Western US now. So, what exactly does like your education from the College of Naturopathic Medicine entail? Like, what are some of the classes that you take? And yeah, I'm so interested to learn what you have to learn on a day to day.
Yeah, totally. So the first year it's broken up into different years. So the first year we are doing mostly what's called biomedicine. So it's basically just a lot of anatomy and physiology, and you're learning about different illnesses, how to treat those illnesses. And it does focus a lot on a comparison of natural treatments versus what's called allopathic treatments, which are more kind of traditional medical treatments. So it's a good look at both sides of the treatment options. And then the second year is naturopathy. So it's focused on naturopathic principles and nutrition. We learn some Chinese medicine techniques, homeopathy. And then the third, fourth, and fifth year are all herbal medicine focused. So we'll learn kind of exclusively about those different herbs and how to establish your own clinic, which is cool.
Do you start like working with people needing like some sort of herbal medicine within your education, or is that after?
Yeah, so that will be part of my clinical hours that I'm required to do under supervision. So there'll be 500 clinical hours where I'm actually working alongside another clinical herbalist and, observing them and working with various clients as well. So that's really exciting.
That is exciting. This is so cool. I'm just like, this seems like such a fun job, but also just like a pathway of learning all of these natural remedies. I feel like it's something we miss out on a lot. At least in my experience, I feel like a lot of people poo poo upon like natural remedies, and we'll talk about that. But I want to know like your plans after you have graduated. What are you hoping to accomplish once you are a clinical herbalist?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm really hoping to open my own practice. I'd love to have my own clinic where I can work with patients and, address different health issues they're having. And I'm not sure like exactly where that will be, but as you know, I did just start my social media account so I can kind of start growing a bit of a basis of people that are interested in that because yeah, there's a lot that goes into it and I've been trying to learn more about how I can be a better herbalist down the road. So it's exciting stuff.
Real quick, before we move on, can you go ahead and shout out the name of your Instagram account that you are chronicling your journey as an herbalist, so that other people can follow you as well?
Yeah, so it's Emmy Joy Herbal, and Emmy is spelled Emmie. It's actually I was named after my grandmother, Emmy, so that's a nickname that I have. She's from the UK.
So fun. And yeah, I've been following you since you started. It hasn't been like too long, but I have loved it so much.
Well, thank
Every time I see what you're posting, I'm like, okay, I gotta try this. Like, for example, there was a little flower that you posted. Was it calendula?
Oh, calendula, yes.
Calendula, thank you, yes, and I was like, "I don't know if I can find where that grows out here in Utah in the wild," but I love learning from you, and so I hope if anyone listening is interested in herbal remedies, Emily is, like, a great resource to follow along. Also, you are superb at taking pictures, and I love that as well.
Oh, thank you so I do love photography, so it's definitely a fun aspect is taking pictures of those things too. Thank you so much. Yeah. And
Yeah.
as far as finding herbs goes, it's definitely it can be tricky to know where to look, but you can definitely find some really great places online just to buy bulk herbs, which I find is really useful, just to make your own teas and stuff. So, yeah, but we are working on maybe doing a garden this summer, so we'll see how that goes.
Is it gonna be like a herbal garden, or are you guys gonna have some vegetables in there and other stuff?
Yeah, I'm hoping to just mostly do some herbs, try to see if I can stock up this summer, but we'll see how it goes. I'm open to anything. We're still kind of deciding.
Yeah. Well, that's exciting. I'm excited to see how it goes. So we finally are, like, in a house of our own and just started my gardening journey last year, and I feel like I have so much to learn. It's kind of a hot mess each year, but so maybe I can be learning from you as you go throughout your gardening journey too.
Well, I am learning from you. I've been such a big fan of everything that you post on Instagram, so it's helped me a lot. I've actually passed it along to all of my plant friends too because it is so
Thank
amazing.
you. Appreciate that. Okay, I want to know what are some, like, herbal remedies that you use frequently, whether it's with your son or with your husband, like, what are you using on a regular basis?
Oh, totally. So, I think the first one I would talk about is one that's really I think important this time of year. People are getting sick a lot, kind of that cold and flu season. But we use what's called echinacea. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that.
Yes, yeah, I
Yeah.
love echinacea, yeah.
Yeah, echinacea. So it's a nice herb because it's actually pretty common now. You can buy it at a lot of stores. It's really accessible, but we use it pretty much every day because it's just a really great immune support, great immune booster. I can't recommend that enough because I think, I personally have been using it every day for almost 2 years now, and I have not gotten sick, which has been pretty big for me.
Wow.
Usually, I'm sick pretty often in the past, I find, so that's definitely one. So another one I would say would probably be milk thistle. I think I posted about that on my Instagram. But yeah, milk thistle's a really good one. I think a lot of us get a little bit concerned. There's this movement online talking about all of the toxic things in our house and how many damaging things are in the products we're using and what we're eating, which is real. But I think something that's really helped me combat that has been using an herb like milk thistle because it's really effective at protecting your liver, helps you cleanse those toxins out. It also can be beneficial for hormone balance, and it has even anti cancer properties. So I definitely recommend that as an herb. But yeah, we use that one every day as well. And then just chamomile as well. I think chamomile is a great calming herb and it is great for reducing stress, inflammation, and it's also good for menstrual cramps, surprisingly. So, yeah, that's a good one.
Sorry, real quick, with the echinacea and milk thistle, is that something that you are taking via, like, a small pill with the herbs inside of it?
Yeah, so I personally use it in a liquid form, like a tincture.
Okay.
And so, yeah, you can buy them at any health food store. I like to look for ones that don't have, a high alcohol concentration in them because sometimes they do have quite a bit of that in them just to extract those properties, but you can find more pure forms. But yeah, I would recommend just going to any health food store and finding those in a liquid form, but you can take them in pill form as well, I'm sure.
Okay, good to know. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt on what you were saying.
Yeah, no, that's it. I guess I would say the last one that I recommend people is called ashwagandha. That's one that I use a lot because I kind of am prone to have, a little bit of a foggy brain. Maybe it's just, having a baby, but I definitely have struggled with that. And so I take that quite often and I find it helps a lot with like my mental clarity and my energy levels and stress. It's a good one for stress and anxiety too. So those are kind of my staples right now, but I'm sure as I go through my course it'll evolve and I'll have a whole cabinet full of many, many herbs.
Are these herbal remedies something that you have, like, been using throughout your life, or has it been since you have been doing your college studies?
Yeah, I did use them when I was younger. My mom would encourage me to use them, but to be honest, I actually went through a bit of a rebellious stage when I was in college where I decided, no, I was going to put to the test what my mom had taught me. I wasn't convinced that it was the best route, and so I kind of put it aside, and I found that my health kind of, for a lot of reasons, plummeted. So when I returned to that, after a while, I found that it was just a lot more impactful for me because it really was working and helping me. So yeah, I've kind of returned to my roots, so to speak, and it's been awesome.
That's really cool. You have like a testament of your own that it does work now.
Totally, yeah.
So, if someone knows like little to nothing about herbs, they've never really used them in their life, if you could just recommend like one thing that they could add in, one herbal remedy, what would that be?
Yeah, I think it can be overwhelming, right? Because there's a lot and definitely depends on the person. But I would say universally, I think honestly, milk thistle, I would say, is an herb that I think everybody should really invest in. That and dandelion. Dandelion is something that just grows in your backyard, right? But it's actually a really powerful detoxifying herb. You have to go somewhere where you know that there isn't pesticides obviously being sprayed, but I will take dandelion and I will dry it, I'll use it in a tea, and it's a really great detoxifier too. So milk thistle and dandelion, I think combined will really help with just detoxifying because those toxins that we get in our bodies are really the root cause for a lot of struggles that we have. And I think that we're constantly bombarded with that. So I think that for anyone that's kind of new to herbs and wants to try something new, I would say start with a small dose, but definitely start testing out maybe milk thistle or dandelion. I think that's really beneficial.
Every cup of Nespresso coffee is an invitation to transform your morning routine into a ritual you can treasure each and every day. Using the Virtuo Pop, a simple touch of the button freshly brews bold aromas and a rich, velvety crema layer for delicious cafe-quality coffee at home. Whether you enjoy your coffee hot or over ice, every sip, every morning is unforgettable. Nothing tastes like Nespresso coffee. Visit Nespresso.com or our app to explore our full range of easy-to-use machines and coffees not found anywhere else.
This episode is brought to you by State Farm. From your morning podcast to your afternoon playlist, State Farm knows you personalize your entire day, and that's why State Farm helps you personalize your insurance with the State Farm Personal Price Plan. It offers coverage options that help protect what you care about most at an affordable price just for you. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there. Prices vary by state. Options selected by customer. Availability and eligibility may vary.
And so if they have like a place where they know either dandelion or milk thistle grows without pesticides, you pick them, you dry them, and do you like with both of them, are you putting them straight into hot water or are you putting it in like tea bags? What's that process like?
Totally. Yeah, there's a few different ways to go about using the herbs. You can make your own tinctures. That's something that I'm still actually learning more about, so I'm excited to kind of get better at that process. But for right now, I usually just I have a teapot that has a strainer in it, and I will get the herbs prepared and I'll put them in there, let them steep. And sometimes I'll even steep them and then put them in a jar, let them sit overnight just so they can really marinate, and then I will use those the next day. So that's kind of what I recommend. If you can invest in some kind of a teapot that has maybe a strainer or some kind of a compartment to hold the loose herbs, that's definitely the best thing.
Is there was there like a learning curve? Basically, I'm wondering what does it taste like? Is it like a pretty pleasant taste? Is it something you have to get used to?
Yeah, that can that can definitely be tricky. I think it is sort of an acquired taste. Some of these stronger herbs that can be used, for detoxing and even echinacea in some forms, it's not very pleasant, which is why I do like to also mix it. Sometimes I'll mix it with maybe chamomile or even like a nice ginger just to try to, maybe mute that flavor a little bit. But you definitely get used to it over time and it doesn't, maybe at first when I used to give it to my husband, he was a little more shocked sometimes at how strong some of the herbs could be, but they've grown on him over time. So.
That actually brings up something I'm curious about. How has your husband been throughout like this whole journey? Is he completely on board? Like this is awesome? Has there like been any points where he's like, "Oh, I don't know about this, Emily."
It's really cool is Brock was actually a huge help in me getting onto this path that I'm on now because he knew my history, he knew what I was interested in as far as natural medicine went, and he really helped me find that niche. He really helped me figure out even where to go to school. He was super supportive, and yeah, even now he's always just the most supportive husband. He will try anything that I make him. He's always open to any sort of herbal remedy. But yeah, he actually struggles with a bit of acid reflux, and so we've also worked on finding him some herbs to help with that, like some slippery elm and aloe and stuff. So it's been beneficial for all of us. But yeah, overall, he's just an amazing support, and he's been a huge part of this journey for me.
I'm so glad to hear that. I'm so glad that he's on board. I feel like Sam might be a little wary if I tried to, like, get more into herbal remedies. He'd be like, "Are you sure?" I kinda grew up in a family where, like, garlic, echinacea, those were, like, always our first line of defense, but
Yeah,
not for my husband's family. That was just, you go to the doctor, you get your Tylenol and, like, nothing else.
no,
So, he thinks
totally.
I'm a little weird that way, but I
I
think it can be so helpful, and both I feel like can serve their purpose, right?
100%. Yeah, I mean, even just a few days ago, I was having some really, really severe neck pain. So, I did have to take some ibuprofen. It's just kind of about balance a lot of the time, I find. So, definitely important.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, are there any misconceptions that you wish people understood about herbalism?
Oh man, yeah, it's tricky. I do think there are definitely some stereotypes. I think when people hear I'm studying herbal medicine, they sometimes think of a witch doctor, which don't get me wrong, is actually is kind of a compliment. I think it's funny. But yeah, there's sort of a stigma, right, that it's not really a legitimate form of healing. And I think in general, like herbalism and naturopathic medicine, they're kind of referred to as alternate medicine, when in actuality, they're the original form of medicine, right? Where these herbal remedies have been around for thousands of years and we've been using them for thousands of years to heal. So, but yeah, I would also say that in regards to like maybe it not feeling as legitimate, it's been cool for me to learn about how many scientific articles and how much science there is to back up the things that I'm learning. And taking this course, it's been really geared from a like scientific background. So I think when people hear, about using herbs, they're kind of thinking, oh, it's kind of just a bit of a hoax sometimes or maybe a placebo, but there's a lot of very legitimate clinical studies that have been carried out that show the effectiveness of these herbs. And that was cool for me to see and learn about coming from kind of a science background, to see that it wasn't just that I had to take someone's word for it. I could, really see the evidence. So that was really awesome.
Yeah. So when I was at BYU, there's a class called medicinal plants. I don't know if you heard about it while you were there.
Oh, I did it. I really wanted to take it and it just never did. I wish I would have now.
It was literally one of my favorite classes,
Awesome.
and the professor, she went through kind of like every culture around the world. So, like, we would do, like, a section on Ayurvedic medicine, like, traditional English medicine. It was just so much fun, but one thing that blew me away is there's so much cultural history to medicinal plants of like this is used to treat this, but it's like not backed yet. Like there are no clinical studies and this was used to treat this, but it's still not backed yet. And I was blown away of like, oh, why aren't we trying this more? Like there is so much natural medicine out there
Yes.
and the scientific studies are just lacking. Do you find that as well?
Yeah, that's actually something I'm really passionate about, because I find that when I do find these really amazing articles that are like, for example, there was a study done about boswellia, which is also known as frankincense, and it was a really powerful clinical. It was a trial they did on mice, but yeah, it basically proved that this boswellic acid was able to inhibit prostate tumor growth after like a number of
Wow.
trials, right? So really powerful stuff, but I've always just been blown away that there's been such limited resources allocated to experimenting more, and I find that when I do look up a lot of things, it says something to the effect of there's not enough conclusive evidence or there's not enough research done. And I just think that's really frustrating because if we were to really allocate more resources to that, who knows what we could find, right?
Yeah. And part of me wonders, and maybe this feels like a little hokey, but part of me wonders if it's because there's like not a whole lot of money in like learning more about these plants because then people can go out and get them themselves instead of like finding some patented medicine that like is only sold in pharmacies. I don't know. Would you agree with that or am I being crazy?
Yes, and you know what? To be honest, I do kind of refrain sometimes from delving into that because it does sound like a conspiracy theory of sorts, but I do really truly believe that there is a bit of a business aspect to it. I do believe that, why ultimately would they want to prove that this cheaper, effective alternative maybe works when there's so many millions of dollars tied up in, pharmaceutical alternatives? So, I mean, it's one way to look at it. I definitely think that the way that the internet is structured is definitely leaning more in favor of pushing maybe more pharmaceutical based approaches. It's frustrating for sure because people can really benefit, but they're hesitant because there's not enough research. But I feel like sometimes that is kind of by design, maybe. So it's
Yeah.
difficult, but they do work, and I'm really a big advocate for that, that people just need to take that leap and try it, because it can really change your life.
And with that, I do want to ask you, is there like any caution that people should have? And if so, like what level of caution should they have? Because obviously you don't want to play around too much with like medicine or just taking plants willy-nilly because you can get too much of them. You can overdose on these sort of things as you can with anything. So yeah, what would your advice be?
Totally. I think in general, when it comes, for example, to foraging, if you're wanting to find plants out in the wild, I think it's important to use a lot of caution with that. Make sure that you are positive the plant that you find is what you think it is. There's lots of books and good resources for that, as well as just making sure that if you are using maybe herbal remedies that are stronger, you consult with, a clinical herbalist first. I think there's definitely a lot of validity in that, and there's a lot more safety in speaking with someone about that first. I definitely have done that in the past as well, but yeah, overall I definitely would use a little bit of caution, but if you go to, a good health food store, you're able to find remedies as well that kind of have those precautions on them, so you know where they're coming from and you know how much to take. So that's also a good way to go about it.
That's a good point. Thank you so much for your time. I want to ask you before we close this interview, how can people stay up to date with you? I know we talked about your Instagram account, but yeah, just go through all the ways that we can keep up with your journey and learn from you.
Yeah, definitely just following me on Instagram. I will be posting a lot there about what I'm learning, and eventually when I do open my own clinic, I will be kind of speaking more on there about that and how you can, access more information. But yeah, overall, I would say that's probably the best way right now to reach me. And I love answering any questions. I have a lot of friends that reach out with different questions, and if I'm able to, I definitely love to research and figure out ways to help them. So yeah, I'm grateful for this course that I'm on right now. It's really been amazing and already helped me and a lot of people in my family. So
That's so cool. I think that's probably the highlight of just being able to help your family and others. I feel like that what a like a neat skill to have as you go throughout, these following years with your degree from the College of Naturopathic Medicine. I think it's so cool and I'm so excited to follow along and learn from you. And thank you again so much for coming on the Plant School podcast. I really do appreciate it.
thank you so much, Rachel. It's been amazing, and I really appreciate you having me on.
Thank you so much for being here and for listening to the Plant School podcast. I hope that you will join me for our next episode. And if you would like to support this podcast and keep it going, there's a link down in the show notes of this episode where you can donate to this podcast. And I really appreciate all that help. Or you can go to my merch store, which is also linked in the notes of this episode. And you can find some really cool plant-related shirts and stickers. And if you want to support the podcast but spend no money, feel free to share it with a friend, leave a review. All these things greatly help me out and allow me to keep doing this. Again, thank you so much for listening and for being here at the Plant School podcast.